My WWE TLC 2013 pay-per-view review. The pay-per-view saw there a little while ago. As far as my thoughts of the show, it actually turned out to be a better show than I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be, a somewhat below average show. It turned out to actually be a fairly good show. It wasn't a great show, but it was good stuff on it. The handicap matches turned out much better than I was expecting. It started off with CM Punk and The Shield, which that was a really good opener. The tag team title four-way elimination match was fairly good. The other elimination match was probably easily the best match, maybe the best match of the night, or arguably the best match of the night. The Daniel Bryan versus the Wyatts, even though I will probably put Cena and Orton as the match tonight because that was a good TLC match. It was a good TLC match with a lot of good spots in it. And the one thing that I think people cannot be complaining with this pay-per-view is we didn't get a screw job ending. We didn't get something with Triple H or Vince McMahon coming out there screwing Cena or some type of, swerve ending. We got, an actual unified champion, which WWE kept on saying, you're going to get a unified champion going in this pay-per-view. They were putting, Triple H was putting a lot of emphasis on it. Stephanie as well. Obviously, a lot of people thought that was going to be bullshit and we weren't going to see a unified champion and they were going to do something with, maybe one of them, both of them, grabbing one title or swapping the title or something. Thankfully, they didn't do that. We got a unified champion with Randy Orton, which I think is the better route to go with Orton being the unified champion because then that gives Cena a little of a break. He doesn't have to be on SmackDown. He doesn't have to be on the road as much as Orton, and that's good for Cena's body right now because he is still, pretty much, he's still a little banged up. And so we got the Unified Champion, so let me get into the show with my review. The opening matchup was on the pre-show. They did Fandango versus Dolph Ziggler. This was actually a really good match for a pre-show. Probably one of the better pre-show matches I've seen in a little while. Fandango and Dolph Ziggler, they had some good back-and-forth action. Dolph got in some good stuff. Fandango as well. Just these are two guys that are very underutilized in WWE, especially Dolph Ziggler. And I would say that with Fandango as well. Two guys that have a lot of potential and could be used much better, and they're relegated to the pre-show. And Fandango wins this match after the leg drop off the top rope to Dolph Ziggler at about 2.5, 2 3/4 star match. Really good match for a pre-show. Then the opening match of the pay-per-view was CM Punk versus The Shield in the first of the 3-on-1 handicap matches. And I'm glad they did these handicap matches, this one and the Daniel Bryan one later on the night. I'm glad they did it with the partners tagging each other out instead of all three ganging up on the one wrestler inside the ring. That worked out much better because, if they were all in the ring, it wouldn't have looked as good and it would have had to more or less be a squash match for the most part for it to be, believable, or, the one stable would look very weak if it went the other way around. But really good stuff in here. CM Punk and Seth Rollins like their stuff they did in here. Roman Reigns gets in his stuff as well. And Dean Ambrose did some really good stuff in here. Just a fun match to start the pay-per-view. Wasn't a great match, but it was a good, solid opener. I liked the ending of the match was really good. CM Punk hit the go to sleep onto Seth Rollins, and then he ended up trying to attempt to go to sleep on Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose reversed it, got out of the way. And then Roman Reigns, he was trying to spear CM Punk to help, get the win for his side. He accidentally speared Dean Ambrose, and then CM Punk threw Roman Reigns outside the ring, and then gets the pin on Dean Ambrose, and CM Punk wins the match. So CM Punk overcomes the odds, wins the 3-on-1 handicap match. Good way to start the pay-per-view. 3 1/4 stars. Then the next matchup was the Divas title match. This was a match I was looking forward to going in this pay-per-view because I knew this would at least be a good women's match we'll finally see on pay-per-view. This was Natalya versus AJ Lee. Did not disappoint. Was it a great women's match? No, I've seen, much better stuff, either Joshi matches or, stuff from Shimmer. But for a WWE Divas match and a WWE and a mainstream organization women's match, this was really good stuff. Natalya and AJ did some good counters and reversals, like the stuff they did in here. Natalya was, a couple times attempting to put the sharpshooter on AJ Lee. AJ Lee got out of it, and the end of the match comes when AJ Lee rolls up Natalya and basically grabs her hair at the same time, so she kind of wins it in cheap fashion. So AJ Lee retains the Divas title in a fairly good women's match, about 2.5 stars. Then the next matchup was probably one of the weakest matches of the night, the match I really couldn't get into. This was Damien Sandow versus Big E Langston for the IC title. Wasn't much of a match. I thought it was very dull and boring. And then Big E Langston, hit his finisher. He retained the IC title. Wasn't much a match. Not really much to write home about. About 1.5 stars at best. At best, it was almost watchable, but not that good of a match. Then the next matchup, this was the 4-way elimination tag team match for the tag team titles. This consisted of the Real Americans versus Rey Mysterio and Big Show versus Cody Rhodes and Goldust versus Curtis Axel and Ryback. The first team to get eliminated were Axel and Ryback. That kind of surprised me. They were the first ones eliminated, because I was expecting the Real Americans to be the first one eliminated, but they got eliminated pretty much soon after that, with Big Show pinning Antonio Cesaro with the KO punch. And then the final two obviously were Cody Rhodes and Goldust versus Rey Mysterio and Big Show. They did some really good stuff with Cody Rhodes and Rey Mysterio, and they ended it in the way that the way they should have, with Cody Rhodes hitting the crossroads on Rey Mysterio, because Rey Mysterio, he's at this time in his career, I mean, I'm not going to say Rey needs to necessarily hang it up yet, but Rey's very injury prone right now, so giving him a title at this point would have been a terrible move to do. So it's good they kept the titles on Cody Rhodes and Goldust, and they worked very good as a tag team. And I mean, Goldust this year, probably one of the better comebacks of the year as far as a performer goes in wrestling this year. So really good match there. Probably about 3 1/4 stars. A good solid tag team match with some parts at the beginning weren't the greatest, then it started picking up. Then the next matchup was Brodus Clay versus R-Truth. This was a watchable match. It wasn't terrible. I mean, I would say definitely wasn't the worst match of the night. I thought probably the worst match of the night was probably Damien Sandow and Big E Langston, or the Kofi Kingston and Miz match to happen after this. R-Truth picks up the victory here. During this match, Tenzai comes out there basically saying, you got the win here, Brodus. You could pin him right here. And they were, he's getting frustrated with Brodus Clay. Then R-Truth ends up rolling up Brodus Clay, gets a roll-up victory, 1.5, 1 3/4 stars, watchable at best. Then the next matchup was a match we've seen millions of times, either on pre-shows, Raw and SmackDown, and we've seen it on pay-per-view a lot. This is Kofi Kingston versus The Miz. This time it did have a special stipulation. It was a no disqualification match. The way they set this match up on the pre-show, The Miz was out there, doing the broadcast with Mick Foley and Booker T. And then during that, Kofi Kingston comes out there, confronts The Miz, slaps him. They get in a scuffle. Mick Foley and Booker T break them up, and then that obviously is the build-up to what led to this match. Now, the one thing, even though we've seen this millions of times, I will give them credit. At the beginning of the match, since it was a no disqualification match, they were actually doing some different stuff. They were brawling, and it actually seemed like a different match for a change from these two. And then it just turned into the typical dull, boring match we've seen millions of times with them. I mean, sometimes these two put on some really entertaining matches. I will say that. But this is one of those times where we've seen it so many times, it's very boring, and the crowd was chanting boring. The crowd was not into this match at all. At best, I would probably give it 1.5, 1 3/4 stars. I mean, I like Kofi Kingston, and The Miz is good from time to time. Just stop having these two take on each other. You can do other stuff with these two performers. Kofi Kingston is a very energetic performer. The crowd likes him. And The Miz, is can be a good heel. They're just not really doing too much with these two. Kind of like, Dolph Ziggler and Fandango. It's just like some talent they're underutilizing and not doing much with. Then the next matchup was the other of the 3-on-1 handicap matches. This was Daniel Bryan versus the Wyatt family. This match, along with the main event, definitely the best matches of the night. This was, I'm probably going to put the main event, the TLC match, as my best match of the night, but this arguably, I could see some people saying this was their favorite match of the night. I mean, just a lot of great stuff in here. At first, it started out with you just seeing Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. You just saw them on the ring apron. You saw them, tagging each other in and out. You saw Bray Wyatt, in his rocking chair. Then he finally got involved. So finally, we see some, Bray Wyatt action here with him in this match. Him and Daniel Bryan did some great stuff. Luke Harper's great for a big guy, and Eric Rowan does good as well. I mean, this is a great stable, and, it's just not a typical WWE stable. I mean, this is just, a weird faction that works very well with each other, and I just love the Wyatt family. And the match ends with Bray Wyatt pinning Daniel Bryan. So CM Punk got the upset victory on the Shield earlier in the evening, and Bray Wyatt got the victory over Daniel Bryan in here. But what they did in this, I mean, Daniel Bryan looked very strong. I mean, he was getting a lot of action, much more than I was expecting him to get from this match. I was expecting the Wyatt family completely beat him down, but Daniel Bryan got in a lot of offense. He looked very strong. The Wyatt family looked great. It was just a great match, and this is a change. Like, I'm one person that despises handicap matches and cannot stand them, but the 2 handicap matches they did on this pay-per-view and the way they did it, with the tags in and out, where not all of them were in there, they both worked. They both worked very well, both of those matches. And as far as Daniel Bryan and Wyatt family match, I'd probably get 3.5, 3 3/4 stars. And then the main event was the TLC match, the Unification match for the WWE and World Heavyweight title between Randy Orton and John Cena. Really good TLC match. This is one match I was somewhat looking forward to, but sometimes with Orton and Cena in the past, sometimes we get great matches from them. Then sometimes we get, just average matches from them. This was a really good, entertaining match here. A lot of great spots in here. Orton went through a number of tables. There was one spot where Cena used the ladder, and Orton, fell off their apron to a table. Cena hit the attitude adjustment to the Spanish announce table, and then Orton got rammed through a table. Cena picked him up, rammed him into the table that was in the corner. Cena, the end of the match, I thought was very well done. Some people might think it was, not the greatest ending. I thought it was fairly good ending, especially with the way they did it. Okay, Orton got the handcuffs involved. He handcuffed Cena to the bottom rope, and I was like, God damn, please do not end this match with Cena there struggling to get loose and Orton just getting the titles that way. They did not do that, thankfully. What they did was, which I think was the more believable way. I think at first I was thinking they were going to go the route Cena breaking loose. Thankfully they didn't do that, because that would have looked a little too cheesy and obviously really fake. What they did was Cena went to the bottom rope, one of the turnbuckle, untied it, got and was still handcuffed, but he got that part of the bottom rope apart, climbed up the ladder, hit Orton, and then right when Cena was trying to grab the titles, get to the top, Orton is pulling him. You see like a tug of war between the two, and then Orton slams Cena off the ladder into a table that was in the corner. Obviously Cena was supposed to go into the table. That did not quite work out. It's basically like Cena falling flat down and his head hitting the table. Looked very, very brutal. Hopefully Cena didn't suffer a bad concussion from there. Hopefully that did not happen. And then Orton then goes up there, grabs both titles. So Orton is the unified champion, which I think, like I said earlier in the video, makes perfect sense with Orton being the unified champion. With, the unified champion right now is going to be someone that's basically going to have the whole weight of the company on his back and his shoulders. He's going to have to go on Raw, SmackDown, all the house shows, perform at the pay-per-views and everything. And Cena just returning from, this injury, and obviously probably returning way too soon. You didn't want to put all that weight on Cena right now, so it makes perfect sense giving the titles to Orton, having him be the unified champion, and we'll just see the way this leads into. Obviously, I'm predicting that Orton will probably keep these titles and stay the unified champion until WrestleMania. Maybe he'll lose it before then, but I'm expecting him to probably walk into Mania as the unified champion and then probably drop the title at that point. That's when I expect someone to beat Randy Orton. And then after the match, you see Vince McMahon, Stephanie, and Triple H, the Authority come out there, celebrate, and then the show ends. So that's the end of the pay-per-view. As far as the main event, I would say definitely a really good TLC match, probably match of the night. 3.5, 3 and 3/4 stars, maybe even 4 stars. I really enjoyed the main event, and good ending, and we got what we wanted: a unified champion. No bullshit ending. No, they swapped titles or something. Thankfully, we got a real unified champion. As far as the overall show, I would probably give it, about a 7.5, 7.75. It's a show that I would say, yeah, it's worth checking out. It's not the greatest show you're ever going to see, but it definitely has some solid stuff on it. I mean, the main event was entertained, it was really good. Definitely recommend that. The two handicap matches they did, and the 4-way elimination tag team title match was good, and you saw a fairly good women's match on here. So really, not too many bad stuff on the show. And that's it for my WWE TLC pay-per-view review. All right, peace.